Hi everyone, Big Seven here, back for another video. This is the last episode of the seven. Today I'm going to go through premium midfielders. I was going to get to mid prices, but unfortunately we'll run out of time before I'm able to record that. So today I'll bring you the premium midfielders. Tomorrow I'll bring you a team reveal. And how good is it? 5 days away from footy season starting. I've been following the NRL in the meantime. Just got to give a shout out to my man Scott Drinkwater, who's managed to finish my season in round two. So thankfully, I won't have to focus too hard on both formats. I'm a footy guy at heart, and yeah, 5 days to go. Very happy to see it come back. So premium midfielders. The player I like the most in the midfield, I guess you'll get to see what my mix is actually tomorrow. But the guy who I think is probably my most non-negotiable is Marcus Bontempelli. Was the sixth highest averaging midfielder last year, and also has the upside of Josh Dunkley's departure. Um, with Josh Dunkley in the side, the Bulldogs were a crowded midfield group. Jack McRae, Marcus Bontempelli himself, Tom Liberatore, Josh Dunkley, all really solid, and Bailey Smith as well. So five really solid midfielders that were eating into each other's scoring. Dunkley leaving, it gives all of those Bulldogs guys a an avenue to score more. He's got the ceiling. I can't see him going backwards. 31%. Very happy to have the Bont. The guy I've got at two is someone that is a bit more of a value pick, but he also benefits from departures in his midfield room, and that's Tom Green, another player that's got 32% ownership. Um, They've lost a couple of midfielders in the off-season. Jacob Hopper, yes, he didn't play a lot last year. And also Tim Taranto. So now they've gone from a really packed midfield group to only really a few top liners. And Tom Green, he was really good in the first half of last year. Averaged 112 before Leon Cameron got sacked. And then after that, things just seemed to go wrong for him. Lost midfield time. There was some times where he was in some ruck contests as well. It just wasn't the same Tom Green in the second half of the year. So I'm backing him to get back to that first half of the year form under a new coach. And with less mouths in that GWS midfield, I think all of those GWS midfielders have some upside about them. Only priced at 97 as well. So if he was to get back to that 112 mark that he was at where Leon was coached, then he's very much undervalued and probably someone that I think will move into the top eight midfielders. So Tom Green at a discount, I'm locking him in. And then the third player, someone that's kind of got a bit more traction as the preseason's gone, that is Rory Laird. And looking at Rory Laird, you just can't fault him. And he's 29, so he's still in the prime of his career. There's no doubt over his midfield time. He's a tackling machine, gets a lot of the ball. There's no real case for downside with Rory Laird apart from maybe he declines a bit because he's 29, but still, Rory Laird's just been so consistent over his career, and if you don't start him, then I don't think he's one of those players that will get down to 600k. I think people will just be bringing him in at 650k anyway. So, and again, his consistency means he's just plug him in as a captain every week. Really liking Rory Laird. And the guy who I have it for is probably the player he's displaced at the top, and that's Clayton Oliver. Again, he's a pig. Nothing really, and he's young as well. So probably scary to say it, but probably still yet to hit his prime. The reason I have Laird over Oliver is that it's Simon Goodwin, basically. Playing Oliver a bit at halfback in the preseason game, I think in general people are reading a little bit too much into it, probably myself included. But when you're paying 700k for a guy, you want absolutely everything to be perfect, and it pretty much is with Oliver. Just Simon Goodwin is a very, very slight concern for me. Especially, we've seen Melbourne recruit Grundy and Gawn. So they've got two ruckmen, and it just shows that Goodwin isn't afraid to play players outside of their best position. And we've seen in seasons past Petrarca play forward when he's an elite midfielder, and he is capable of playing forward, obviously. But it just shows that Goodwin. I don't want to say he's on that level, but it's definitely Bevo vibes where he isn't afraid to throw the magnets around. I still think Oliver is a fine pick. I've got Laird very slightly ahead of him at the moment. The player at 5, and it's a player that is also, I mentioned Montempelli before with the departures in the Dogs midfield, and Jack Macrae is another player that is set to capitalise on that. We've seen in the past he's got an elite history, pretty much 120 averages for a number of years, and he can get back to that. I guess the slight concern is his age. He's probably past the prime of his career. So I guess there is a small case for some downside there. But still, with an increased midfield role, Macrae at 634k, he's just been solid over his whole career, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets back to a 120 average. I probably see him more as like a 115 to 120 guy, so probably paying what you should be paying for Macrae, but he's just a solid option. 13% as well, fairly low. So I don't mind Macrae as an option. The guy I've got at 6, and it's a guy that I've been very against. We've seen in the YouTube world that more and more creators are getting on him, and that's Josh Kelly. And like with Tom Green, another player that's been a victim of his coach, Leon Cameron, in Kelly's interests. We've seen him be deployed on a wing, be deployed forward, and with all of these departures, he is set to play a big midfield role. I think the other thing that people are forgetting is his injury history. Yes, he has played 20 plus games in his last 2 years, but I still worry about his midfield, about his injury history, especially you see the 5 guys I've got here, they don't miss games. Whereas Kelly has done that in past seasons. You do wonder if his lack of injuries in recent season can be attributed to less midfield time, potentially. Look, I don't mind Josh Kelly. I wouldn't be talking you out of him if you want to pick him. For me, it's just the injury history, the history I've had with him personally. I've picked him a number of seasons, and he's someone that has tended to get injured around the time of the buys or when you're trying to upgrade players. So, like I said, wouldn't talk anyone out of the Josh Kelly pick, but for me, I prefer Bontempelli, Green, Laird, Oliver, and Macrae over him. But look, there is clearly a case for upside. I think he can hit 115 to 120 if he stays fit. And then the last guy I've got, he's definitely more of a pod, someone I was strong on preseason, and he was underwhelming in the game against the Bulldogs. It's Luke Davies-Uniacke, and I guess, that game probably talked me out of the pick. I would have had him in my top 5 prior to that game. It is worth noting that it's a preseason game, and it was a pretty open game that definitely suits the Bulldogs midfielders. I guess that's for Luke Davies-Uniacke, that probably reminded me of his floor a little bit. I only watched the second half of that game, so maybe not a true indication of what I'm about to say, but while I was watching it, it seemed like Davies-Uniacke was open a lot of the time, and rather than go the handball route, some of those North Melbourne midfielders were just bombing it long into the forward line rather than trying to build up the play, and that was straight into the hands of Liam Jones. So Davies-Uniacke, I think he's still capable of hitting somewhere between 110 and 115. Just that preseason game has me a little bit skittish. We've seen what his floor can be. And in a side that's expected to be poor, we could see that floor come up a fair bit. The reason for picking him, I mean, if he's going to, I think he can go between 110 and 115, and his early fixtures are pretty decent. He's got West Coast week 1, and I won't be picking him, but I will be putting a bet on him for him to get 125 SuperCoach points. Fremantle week 2, Hawthorn week 3, hoping that he doesn't get tagged by Finn McGuinness as well. So he's someone that could get off to a really hot start, and unfortunately, yeah, I'm not going to go with him. And if he does do well at the start of the year, then I probably still won't trade him in just because he's had those good fixtures. But I don't mind him as a pod option. So those are the 7 midfielders that I endorse the most. There's some guys I've missed out on here. Bailey Smith, Jack Steele, even Lachie Neale could be okay. Andrew Brayshaw, Patrick Cripps. There's a lot of options in midfield, and if I haven't listed your option here, by no means write them off. I think there is a lot of flexibility to go different in midfield this year. And if you like your player, I would say back them in. So I'll be back with another video tomorrow. This will be my team reveal. And I'll also drop a league code in there. So make sure you're watching that. I'll see you for that video. And thanks for watching.